Hey, what's up, guys? It's Andrew from Are We Alive? And today I'm going to be talking about the top 5 albums that got me personally into metal. Let's get started. All right, so I'm not going to be doing these in any kind of particular order. I'm just going to put them up there. Some of these albums, maybe just particularly one you might laugh at, but I don't care. These are just albums that really meant a lot to me and got me into making metal music, picking up guitar, all that kind of stuff. Number 1, The Poison from Bullet for My Valentine. Ceasefire! Now, I was in high school when I first heard them, and there was a girl named Amy. I was on the bus, and I think I wasn't supposed to be on that particular bus. I don't remember where I was going, but she just started talking to me. You know, we started talking about metal. She was like, hey, I've got these 2 albums, and I think you should check them out. One's called The Poison, one's called Scream Aim Fire. And I was like, that sounds interesting. I've heard of this Bullet for My Valentine band. I heard they're very light and kind of a girl band. And she's like, no, idiot, you need to listen to this. And I was like, okay. So she hands me the CD for The Poison. And I was like, well, can I have Scream Aim Fire as well? No, you have to go home and listen to The Poison. I'm like, okay. So I go home, lay down, turn off all the lights, pop it into the DVD player, and then just hit play. When the Apocalyptica track mixed with Bullet for My Valentine came on at the beginning, the intro track, I was like, oh man, I'm in for something. Then her voice for sides hits, and it was just wild. And before I knew it, I was getting through the whole album, and I had an experience just closing my eyes and listening to that album the entire way through. I felt it was really impactful. You know, I was a teenager filled with angst and all that kind of stuff. And it really spoke to me at that time. You know, I listen to the tracks now and they don't quite hit me the same way that they did then. That happens. For its time, for its influence it had on me, that album kicked ass. So I'm going to have to say The Poison. And eventually I also took home Screaming Fire. I actually hated it at first. Now it's my favorite album from Bullet for My Valentine. Funny how that works. Anyway, let's move on. Number 2, Rust in Peace from Megadeth. This album is amazing. I got into Megadeth way too late. I mean, of course, I was listening to like their hits or whatever, like Sweating Bullets, of course, Symphony of Destruction, Peace Cells, all that kind of stuff. I don't remember what it was or how I got my hands on the album, but I did. I got my hand on a physical. I think my buddy that I had at a time who used to go to Trivium concerts with me recommended that I check out Megadeth as well. I took the CD, put it into the CD player in the car, I was driving to work. I just remember Holy Wars comes on, and it's the most epic song I have ever heard. And especially when he's just like they killed my wife and my baby. Like when that part hit, I was just like, oh my God, this guy's he's letting it out. Dave Mustaine, man, he's incredible. Yeah, and then I mean, Tornado Souls, incredible. Dawn Patrol, I thought was really weird at first. Like with the accent and stuff, but I really grew to love it. And of course, Rust in Peace, Polaris, that's a great track. Poison Was the Cure. It's a great album all the way around. Even how it's mixed, I think it still holds up today. It's got this very raw sound to it, but it's also very clean, and it's just very tight musicianship. And I just think it is, to this day, one of the best metal albums of all time. You guys should listen. Like The Poison was personally one of my favorites, and maybe some of you will say it's one of the best of all time, but there is no doubt that Rust in Peace from Megadeth is one of the best freaking albums of all time. All right, moving on. Number 3, Ascendancy from Trivium. So I was kind of torn on which Trivium album to put. I love every single album they've put out. People don't really like The Crusade that much. That was my favorite album for years. I love The Crusade. But Ascendancy was their first album I listened to from them. The 2 main tracks that hooked me on there were Pull Harder on the Strings of Your Martyr. And the track itself, Ascendancy. I think the track Ascendancy itself was the first one I listened to, and that chorus just got me. I've listened to everything ever since. And The Deceived, honestly, is one of the best tracks of all time. I love The Deceived, and I like the demo version they have too. So it is one of the greatest metal albums of all time, and honestly, Trivium's one of the best metal bands of all time. In fact, I love them so much that my guitar is a Matt Heafy's signature guitar from when In Waves came out. So,
get a life, nerd.
All right, moving on. Number 4, we've got Tribute from Ozzy Osbourne. Randy Rhoads is, in my opinion, the greatest guitar player who ever lived. He took that classical element and brought it to metal in a way that people had never heard, I think, before that, and the way I'd never heard. This album was given to me in 2006 by my dad, and this album mixed with another album, which is next on this list, got me to play guitar. I don't know what it was, but there was just this pin-up feeling I had on like, man, I just can't properly express myself. Like I was looking for all these different avenues of expression, which I think is common at that age. But the first time I heard Randy Rhoads rip a fucking solo, oh my God, it was amazing. Amazing guitar player. I love that album. I'd listen to it start to back over and over and over and over. That album to this day is still one of my favorites. It's an incredible live performance. And in my opinion, it's up there with like Live Aid and stuff, like level, performances. To those of you who've heard the album, you know what I'm talking about. To those of you who haven't, you need to listen to Tribute from Ozzy Osbourne. Oh my God, it is so good. And it's his farewell to Randy Rhoads, which is beautiful. There's a lot, and if you get your hands on a physical, there's lots of great pictures and stuff of their time together. It's really sad. Randy Rhoads unfortunately passed away in a freak plane crash accident. Apparently they were playing this game where they'd fly close to the tour bus or whatever, and then I think the wing clipped the tour bus that knocked it over, and then the plane went into a house. Thankfully, nobody was at the house at that time, and it killed everyone on board, including the makeup artist and pilot. So yeah, terrible thing, but amazing album. Moving on, number 5, Paranoid from Black Sabbath. This is the first rock and roll, metal, whatever album I listened to ever. It's like 2003, 2004. I was listening to like techno. I was listening to like a Last of the Mohicans techno remix, and that was my favorite song. I'd stand outside the school when I was waiting on the bus and just kind of look up at the building, just like all majestic, like... And it was amazing. I loved it. But then my dad's like, okay, that's cute. Because my dad, he got me into that stuff. But he's like, you need to hear this. What do you think of this? And he puts it on. I just remember hearing War Pigs for the first time and just being completely blown away. Then moving on to Paranoid, still awesome. But then, of course, Iron Man comes on, and Iron Man is Iron Man. At this point, that song, when I hear it, it does nothing for me because I've heard it way too many times, as I'm sure you guys have too, especially after the Iron Man movie came out and Guitar Hero and all that stuff. That's really what led me to playing guitar. In fact, as soon as I heard Iron Man, I went and I asked for my mom's 1980s Sigma that she had under the bed, this old acoustic guitar that she learned Dust in the Wind on when she was in school, when she's a kid. And I learned how to play Iron Man on that. And I remember I learned alternate picking on that. And I also learned hammer-ons and pull-offs doing that. It was cool. Of course, I played it wrong, sounded terrible. They had to hear it for like a year before I finally moved on and played something else. That album, man, is incredible. And I'm sure that everyone can agree it is one of the best metal albums of all time. So anyways, guys, those are my top 5 heavy metal albums or metal albums that got me into listening to, or that got me to become a musician. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. You could also check out my stuff on Spotify. Look for Are We Alive anywhere you listen to music. Check out my music. Let me know if it sucks. Let me know if you like it. And anyway, guys, that's it for today. So have a great rest of your day, and peace.